Dr. Sir Isaac Vivian Alexander Richards is perhaps the most recognizable and admired West Indian of all time. He is Antigua and Barbuda's national hero, a distinguished knight with an honorable doctorate of letters, all conveyed upon a man who has made his mark as a cricketer on the world stage. He is the pride of his people and the man who has traveled what many would call a predestined road to greatness. Born March 7, 1952, to Malcolm and Grethel Richards, it was clear from an early age that the little boy from Ovals had found his passion.
My earliest memory of him is when he and Marvin were once playing ball and bat, just the two of them alone. And I came by and chatted with them for a while. And he asked if I'd ever played for Antigua. He said, no, I never played, but I know the people who played. And he said, you know, one of these days I'm going to play for Antigua. I think he might have been about 7 or 8 years old by that time.
I saw Vivi, and he was among the boys in the junior league. And he was the best of them all, but troublesome, you know. Vivian, troublesome, and had a bad temper too.
In the backyard, we would play a test match, or 5 test matches for that matter. And then at one time he'd be England and I would be West Indies, or he'd be West Indies and I'd be England. And I think at that time England used to do very well when he was England, you know.
The father wanted him, was to be an engineer or something like that.
I knew his father and his brothers. Donald was a fast bowler for the Leeward Islands, as a matter of fact, and a footballer. And Viv and Mervyn all followed, but it came from the old man. I knew the father many, many years ago when he was a warden at the Her Majesty's prison. And I knew him. He's a very stern man, a very disciplined man. And my first memories of Viv go back to before he made the Antigua team. He was at school, a boy prodigy, to the point where when he came on the scene and was practicing for the Antigua team, they had huge crowds up there watching this young man practice.
I said to him, you know, but what do you want to do? He said, you know what I would like to do? I would just like to get up in the morning, bathe, put on my clothes, eat my breakfast, and just take up my bat, if that was, occupation.
He used to sleep with a bat and was saying that, you know, he would love someone just to pay him just to play cricket.
When, as a very young guy, his brother, Donald Richards, would bring him up to the grammar school when I was still a student there to practice amongst the bigger guys, you know, just to throw up a few balls at him when he was perhaps around 7 or thereabouts. But even at that early age, onlookers could see that this youngster had been destined for glory on the field of cricket, you know.
When Sir Frank Worrell saw him, Sir Frank, we put 12 boys before Sir Frank, and after he had finished seeing all of them, he said, he called the 3 of us, Sammy, Stanley and I. We sat under one of the mahogany trees by the park, and he talked to us and so on, and he said, you have a little boy, there's going to be an island cricket. That boy. What's his name? So we said, Vivian Richards. He said he's going to be a first-class a world cricketer.
It was no accident that he made it into the Antigua cricket team and went on to play for the Leeward Islands. That he would make it to the West Indies team, we weren't quite sure, because even back then, the Leewards, though had begun to play against the bigger islands, like today, they weren't selecting people from the Windward and Leewards, or if they gave them a chance the first time they failed, they dropped them.
Viv was always very conscious of where he came from, because his father probably, given the opportunity, could have played for West Indies. Viv was always very conscious that there were many others, Derek Michael, Sidney Wallin, maybe my father, Leo Gore, and Tonneson, and others that could have played for the West Indies, but never got the opportunity. So he was very aware of that. And as Milton said, with me, I didn't go up with him as such, but as Milton said, I know that he wanted to prove that the people from the Leewards had as much ability as those in the bigger islands. And he certainly went out there and proved it.
Throughout his cricketing career, Vivi, as most Antiguans know him, played cricket for major teams such as the West Indies, Combined Islands, Leeward Islands, Glamorgan in the UK, Queensland in Australia, and Somerset.
It was not easy. It was really a challenge for him to be away from home for long periods. He would miss, like special occasions. During some of the matches then, even though, he may have been going through a little challenge here and there, he would make a quick phone call. And that was, before a match, he'd make a quick phone call, make sure everything's all right and so. And I believe that was calming.
He has been described as a spectacular fieldsman, bowler, a superlative batsman, and a captain who led by example.
He never played for himself. The record books will show you that. Viv is going out there and he's given his all for his team. I never forgot a great knock that he played in Jamaica against India. And I don't remember the actual scores and whatnot and so on. But everybody thought it was impossible for West Indies to win that game. And Viv went down there, came in one down. West Indies lost an early wicket and he went down. And he proceeded from the first ball to tear that bowling apart. He got out for 60-something and the game was won.
Viv defied the orthodoxy of the game itself and developed his own orthodoxy. As Shortshade says in the Calypso, his breathless late cut right off the stumps. His hitting in the air, but safely, which had not been really done before, but after Viv had impressed these elements in the orthodoxy of the game, they now have become accepted.
His whole style of playing cricket, some cricket writers describe it as being brutal. And in many ways I consider that to be a fair description, because I recount Trevor McDonald writing in some book that he hit a prodigious 6 one time, and at the end of the game Trevor asked him, how did you manage to play that shot? And he said, the ball was there to be hit, so I just hit it.
I have never found a bowler who had a strategy for dismissing Viv Richards. The strategy usually was to keep him at the non-striking end. That's the only way you dealt with him. And the whole, his sort of like creating an off-stump line, which people refer to as playing across the line. And when previously growing up playing cricket, we would have called it cross-swiping. So he sort of reinvented that process.
He inherited the captaincy of the West Indies team from Sir Clive Lloyd in 1984. From inception, he instilled an ideology of Caribbean nationhood and the will to continue the success they inherited among the players that led the team to a record of success not previously achieved. He retired in 1991 as an unblemished captain, never having lost a series.
Viv never liked to lose. He always expected high standards from everybody, and he had, right now we see so many players with a lot of talent. Viv had the talent, but Viv was also a hard worker.
He had a good team. That has to be the basis. Because regardless of how good you are as an individual, if you don't have the quality, right, then you can't do anything on your own. And I think what might have worked for him, it was his ability to manage the quality that he had. Because with so much talent, you really have to know how and when to stop, when to introduce who, how much you can extend them, right? And what are their attributes for a particular situation that you and the team might find yourself in. And those things combined would have made him, with his own approach, fearless, regardless of the opposition, regardless of the conditions, right? When you put all that together and you give him the material that he had, it would have been very difficult for him to lose.
Any cricketer who would have played with him will tell you that, right? When he got in the field, it was business, business, and more business. Really business. Don't be jovial on the field. Don't play about. Don't be messing about on the field. Be in the game. Pay attention to details. That is what he was about. He could be the person that is dragging you down for not doing something on the field this second, but the next second you took a brilliant catch, and he would be the first person over there to hug you and lift you up and so on. So you knew that it wasn't personal. He just wanted to ensure that you were on top of your game.
The father does it. You know who is a leader? A leader is one who knows the way, leads the way, and go all the way.
Wisden, the prestigious cricket almanac, selected Sir Vivian Richards as one of the top 5 cricketers ever to grace the playing field. A cricketer with extraordinary talent, finesse, power, and perhaps the most exciting to watch. He was able to pulverize opposition bowlers of quality and once hit a Test century in 56 balls. His incredible fielding in the 1975 World Cup final turned the game for the West Indies.
He preserved his record mainly because of the strength, the inner strength that he had, and the self-belief that, look, you're not going to dominate me, or you're not going to dominate us while we can do something about it. And you get the impression that it was a case of always setting out to do something about it, to prove that we are more than just the guys who run fast, running from police most times, right? We can use our speed and our strength to do other things. And that niche, cricket, right? Now we have found it, we are dominating, and we are going to preserve that as long as we have strength, as long as we have breath. We can't account for what will probably happen after, but in our time, this is what we are going to do, and beat us if you can. Not many were able to.
Viv Richards' fastest one-day international of 50 came from 32 balls made against India. However, he shares that record with Ian Botham, his lifelong friend, Somerset colleague, and former England cricket captain.
His good friend Botham was, of course, on the England team. And I remember at one stage Botham was bowling, and Viv hit him for 6, Viv hit him for 4, Viv hit him for another 6. And then he told the fielder on mid-off, long off, to go back to the boundary line. When the boy reached the boundary line, Botham said, go up, meaning that he must go up in the stand to catch the ball.
There's another famous story about this bowler running up to Viv, again playing for Somerset, bowling 4 or 5 deliveries to him, and Viv plays and miss all of them. The guy then proceeds to go down the wicket and tell Viv, if he doesn't remember what the ball looks like, the weight, what type of seam it has, what color it has, and all of that. Well, when you do something like this to Viv Richards, it just invokes a kind of demon that comes out. And the next ball he bowled, Viv hit the ball so far above his head, the ball went out to the ground. While he turned around to see where the ball was going, Viv casually went down the wicket. And when he turned around, Viv was standing right in front of him. And Viv said, in case they can't find the ball, you'll be able to assist them because you know the size, the weight, the color, and everything.
He hated when people said that he couldn't do something, when he himself knew that, hey, it could be done. And it didn't matter where the person was from, you know, how big he was. He wanted to prove that, hey, I'm better than you. He's like the Peter Tosh. Anything that you can do, I can do it better.
Sir Vivian Richards played his last Test match against England at the Oval in 1991, but never left the game. He continues to give freely of his services to West Indies cricket with a great display of humility and sincerity.
Even when he had attained the great heights of West Indian captaincy, where he was hobnobbing with presidents and prime ministers and everything, he still could be seen on the streets of St. John's or amongst his friends and associates of former years. And, you know, with that same affinity and camaraderie that he had always expressed. And I think that this is one of the outstanding qualities of Sir Vivian Richards as a man.
He said that he was always determined to do to do well, you know, whenever he played against opposition, because, you know, he loved the way how, you know, the West Indians who were living in England at that time, how they, you know, they walk with so much confidence whenever the West Indies did fairly well. And so he was determined not to let them hang their head low or to walk without confidence. As a matter of fact, the recent decline of West Indies cricket, I mean, that was the first thing that actually came to his mind, you know. It's not how poorly the team was doing, but exactly the fans and the supporters of West Indies, how they felt after, you know, losing or not doing too well.
The naming of the Sir Vivian Richards Cricket Stadium in Antigua and Barbuda, for many, is a fitting way for a nation to say thank you.
With this stadium being named after him, I think it will be a fitting reminder of our master blaster Viv's contribution to the game of cricket and his dedication over the years.
I really liken Viv a lot to Muhammad Ali in a lot of ways. They were both excellent on their feet, you know, they moved gracefully, but then they were so lethal. And what Muhammad Ali did in a boxing ring, I think Viv did on a cricket ground. And along with that, Muhammad Ali refusing to put on an American uniform to fight an unjust war, and Viv refusal to sign a blank check to prop up the evil regime in South Africa, the apartheid regime. So I saw that similarity between Viv. You know, he was extremely proud. He played cricket with a passion that went beyond cricket.
He's done so much for this country, so much for the Caribbean, so much for black people. So conscious, I mean, let's just talk about Viv refused to go to South Africa. Somebody puts a check in front of you, an open check, and he refused. I know Nelson Mandela has the greatest respect for him, and so many other leaders, so many other people, and these are things one cannot forget. Who else could we name a stadium after? He's done so much for this country, so much.
It's inspirational, really. The humble beginnings that he came from, you know, not just being a cricketer, but what he stood for as well, because I think that was really something that struck a chord with people around the world, not just Antiguan, but South African people who was, you know, encountering apartheid at the time and things like that. You know, it's just what he stood for as a man, and, you know, he's really proud to be black.
Viv has done so much for this country in terms of giving us recognition and notoriety that nothing that Antigua can give him, really, can offer him, is too much.
My father said, Viv is to cricket what Muhammad Ali was to boxing and Pele to football.
To have a stadium here in Antigua named after him, yeah, it's special for me, and I know he feels that way as well.
No bowler holds a tailor, but Vivian Richards, not something not Indies, not Baby Nation, that's me. Perfect combination of body and mind, that's what I really like. you calling him. Fast and slowly, we're going back to the country. Vivi is the name, cricket is the game. But I don't know how he could play cricket so. But his batting, bowling, feeling, catching is breathtaking. Sometimes I just wonder if he's the next overs in the making. That man Richards could really bat. It's something to see him and the attack. Plundering bowlers again and again. It's remarkable how he does dictate the game.